Hello and happy holidays from Minibo and I. Today we'll be talking about the ship we've all been looking forward to, the Tier 10, the myth, the legend, the infamous, the most likely thing that team killed you maybe 3 years ago when it was around, the Tier 10 Japanese torpedo cruiser, the Kitakami. Now I'll be going over her stats and my opinion of her performance, followed by how you can obtain her in the upcoming Salvage for Victory event. Now keep in mind that Wargaming did state that they will not be releasing Kitakami through any other means for at least 2 years. So if you want her now, you gotta pay up, and spoiler alert, she ain't cheap at all. You might need to sell a few organs if you haven't been saving resources. I myself have had to get rid of a kidney, so that's why I've been so sick recently. So yeah, get ready to sell an arm or a leg or a foot, maybe a hand. I don't know, maybe a few fingers. I don't know. But yeah, the in-game Kitakami was an equally turbulent as her IRL counterpart. She was initially released as a Tier A cruiser for players who achieved rank 1 in the first ranked season. However, she was quickly removed as she garnished a poor reputation owed to her one-dimensional playstyle. The torpedo spam playstyle that was not fun to play against, and a reputation for team killing. I was not around when the Kitakami was first introduced, but I have heard so many stories of how the Kitakami would just team kill teammates all the time for sitting too far back and then trying to torp, and then the teammates were in the torps, and well, you know how the story goes after that. Now, she would not return for WoWs for several years until Wargaming brought her back for testing in 2020. And I first remember when they did that, and we were like, oh my God, how is that thing coming back? I remember that. That was back when team damage was still a thing, but of course, she didn't get reintroduced back then, and the Kitakami would undergo several major changes until settling in her current state today, as well as team damage being removed from the game. So yeah, so now here she is. Now the Kitakami's playstyle still revolves around spamming torpedoes, which her build is built around. As you can see, the build is around the torpedoes and torpedo spam in the skills, along within the modules being built for torpedoes as well. The guns are not worth a damn to build into. Plus, the ship having a 7.9 kilometer concealment, is best to not use the guns at all unless you're in the exhaust smoke, or you're in a situation where you have to fight with the DD, and then you can use your guns. Now, the Kitakami has some unusual quirks compared to other Japanese cruisers like the Junon. The most immediate difference is how her torpedo tubes reload. Unlike other surface ships, the Kitakami reloads her torpedo tubes one rack at a time. So on the left side of the ship, it'll be loading one rack at a time. On the right side, it'll be loading one rack at a time. Kind of like how submarines reload. So if you have any experience with submarines, that's how it works with there. These torpedoes reload faster to compensate, but Kitakami won't have her full complement of torpedoes until at least 5 minutes into the match. Furthermore, the Kitakami has access to 2 different types of torpedoes: the standard 12 kilometer torpedoes and the Asashio 20 kilometer deep water torpedoes. Her standard torpedoes are very similar to the European DDs, very fast, but at the cost of low damage and flooding chances. Now, these are most effective against DDs and cruisers, but against BBs, you definitely want to switch to the 20 kilometer deep water torpedoes, where those torpedoes are only good against battleships and CVs. And the thought of 40 Asashio torpedoes alone is enough to make any battleship cower in fear behind the furthest island. And the Kitakami can switch between these torps even when the torps are reloading. So as you'll be seeing throughout the match, when I switch to the torpedoes, it just takes a few seconds to switch between the regular torpedoes and the deep waters. So say you want to hit a battleship using regular torpedoes reloaded. All you have to do is quickly switch over, and bam, you're ready for deep water torpedoes. Or you can switch from deep water back to normal. It just takes a few seconds, and bam, there you go. But you just need to remember that these deep waters cannot hit cruisers and DDs, so make sure you have the right torpedoes selected or you are screwed. Unfortunately, though, just about everything else about the Kitakami screams garbage. Her guns are pathetic, having only HE shells that pin 23 millimeters of armor. You can't even pin the 25 millimeter bow of most tier 8 cruisers, which is quite disappointing. You can outgun some DDs, and I mean some, but even that's a challenge due to your squishy hull, which will be shown. The 65 millimeter of armor is all that protecting you from a citadel hit, and a good chunk of her citadel sits above the water. If the enemy even thinks about loading AP, or some of the HE throwing battleships like the Conqueror, Thunderer, some of those little bigger cows, even Citadel, even with HE, 95% chance it's going to be a Citadel hit. And with the 28k base HP is literally 2 BB Citadels away from Depth Strike. It isn't completely hopeless though, because the Kitakami does get the Italian exhaust smoke to hide for 30 seconds. Now, make liberal use of it, as enemies love to focus you whenever they get the chance. As whenever I was playing this thing and testing it, it was very, very relevant today. They want you out of that match as soon as possible, because everyone knows what Kitakamis are capable of and how many torpedoes they can get in the water cycle. Completely understand that, guaranteed. The main issue, another issue is that if you see a Malta on the enemy team, you might as well go to the next match. Not only will he depth strike you with the AP dive bombers, but your anti-air rating of literally 1, you can't even shoot down a fighter. You can't even shoot down a fighter. You can't shoot down any planes. This is legit the most worthless anti I've ever seen. Even my BB gun that I had as a kid could potentially shoot down something more than this thing. Like legit, this thing has no anti-air, so if you got a CV in your match, you're screwed. She also has ship launch depth charges, which forces you to run over submarines with your depth charges, which usually means getting shotgun in the process, so GG in that regard. You don't get no aerial ASW. Now, as you can tell, the Kitakami is a pure, and I mean pure torpedo boat. Pure. Kind of like the Jaeger, but cruiser version, you know? Cruiser version. This ship is built to flood whole lines of the map with torps. Whole lines, grid squares, whole areas of the map is what it's meant to do. It's supposed to flood the map with torpedoes. You're supposed to use your stealth to get into positions for spamming torpedoes into oncoming enemies. You want to use both sides to maximize your torpedoes, which you do have amazing torpedo angles on this thing, to maximize your torpedo output. That is it. You don't want to get spotted. You don't want to gun other boats. You don't even want the AP even looking at you or coming at you. The thing is that for this particular ship, being stealthy and not being seen is the biggest important thing. If you do not have a DD helping you, and you have an enemy DD spotting you, you're screwed. If you get perma spotting for 30 seconds, you get so easily depth struck by almost literally anything. You have to be very careful of that. Now, the thing is, as you'll be able to see in this match is though, when you are able to just get your reloads and just launch the torps over and over and over and over again, you are a true actual menace in a match. In my second replay that I was showing, I legit just held a whole flank of BBs on my own. It was just hilarious. They did not want to push. It was me and like 2 BBs that were there, and we were holding off their whole team. They didn't want to push. They were that concerned about the torps. They didn't want to move up. They were scared of the torpedoes coming in. They don't want to deal with it. It was crazy, and it's just hilarious just how many torps this thing has come out of it. It's insane, and I can see why people want this thing, because it is a true terror. And I can understand why Wargaming legit were telling testers not to bring this thing into triple divs, which the testers did anyway back when it was first being reintroduced back then in 2020. It was legit breaking the game. The game engine couldn't handle the amount of torpedoes being launched at the same time. So they had to space out the torpedo reload to make it where it's less likely you're gonna have all of them in the water at the same time. Normally I'll load about half of them, launch the halves is normally how I do it. I don't really try running all the full unless I'm legit like alone and I have a lot of time to be able to do it. Normally I'm trying to launch 2 at a time or 4 at a time, not launching all 8 launches of torps. Now, going off of that, as you all many of you want to know if the Kitakami is OP or not. To be honest, I don't think that really matters here. Most people aren't buying her for her unique game style. They're buying it to own the Kitakami for the ultimate collector's flex and proof of their dedication to the game. Hoarding all these resources for years and years and years, waiting for something to be finally get it in. This is pretty much it. Even Wargaming themselves have been like, this ship is meant for the ultra farmers. This ship is meant for the mega elites of farming. You've been hoarding your resources for years, and here you go. Here's your prize. Enjoy. So pretty much the mega whales, the mega collectors of the game, mega resource farmers, putting that dedication, that time in. Here you go. This is pretty much for you, is what they said. So if you're newer to the game, you're gonna be way less likely to be able to get this, just from the sheer amount of resources it takes to get this thing. Is ridiculous. This is by far the most expensive ship ever introduced in the game, just off of the coal amount, off of the steel amount, research bureau, the premium time, everything, like separately or put together. It's the most expensive ship of all time ever in the game. Most expensive. And that even includes like like donations for charity, because the most expensive one at the time was Smolensk, which was 2,000. Somebody did it. There was a charity, someone donated $2,000 and they got a Smolensk, which is very kind of them to do. And at the time, that was the most expensive ship that was ever like bought, was for charity for the $2,000. Now this is now the most expensive thing to be ever used, because it's above that. If you put money into it, it's more than 2,000. So this is definitely the ultimate collector flex of a ship if you do have it. It is the ultimate. It's the ultimate. It really is. But anyway, moving from that, moving on to the historical aspect of the Kitakami. The Kitakami was commissioned in April 1921 as a Kuma-class cruiser. While her interwar service was unremarkable, it was clear by 1941 that she was outclassed by newer designs. In late 1941, the Japanese Navy converted Kitakami into a torpedo cruiser, replacing the aft gun turrets to make room for 10 quad torpedo launchers. It is in this configuration that the Kitakami appears in World of Warships. She and her sister ship Oi were intended to be part of the Japanese night fighting force, but this never played out, and Kitakami would later be converted to a fast torp transport for use in the Solomon Islands campaign. Following a submarine attack, the Kitakami was then converted into a Khitan submarine carrier but she didn't see action due to lack of fuel. Kitakami would be the only Kuma class cruiser to survive the war, being decommissioned and scrapped shortly after World War ended. Now, done talking about the Kitakami, let's move on to talking about the Salvage for Victories event works and how it works, which starts mid-December, or a few days after this video is out, and ends at the beginning of update 13.1. In this event, players can spend different resources to progressively unlock better and rare rewards. Players can spend coal, steel, research points, which is Research Bureau, or premium time to advance their progress. The conversion rate for one stage is as follows. It's either 2,400 research points, 19,000 coal, 1,700 steel, or 60 days of premium. And of course, the 60 days of premium is limited to 16 stages, so you can only use up to 16 stages of 60 premium time. So 16 and 606 it's 960 days of premium time per minute you can use, which a lot of whales of wilds will have. You can only use up to 16. So during this event, you can get 4 ships we can unlock to this event. The first one is the tier 6 pan-European cruiser, the Ellie, is the first ship, which is unlocked at stage 8. I've already covered her before, so you can check out my other YouTube video on her. Now, one of the new ships is a tier 7 Italian cruiser from Francesco Ferruccio, is unlocked at stage 16. She boasts 8 152mm guns and 2 quad turrets that can rotate a full 360 degrees with HE and SAP, which gives her powerful farming tools, while her good concealment offsets her poor durability. I think she's pretty decent, but has issues when facing higher tier ships like other tier 7 cruisers. So I do think she's a good ship. She's definitely worth it to get, and it'll be a lot of fun to play. Now, next up is the tier 10 British cruiser, the Defense, with a C. She is unlocked at stage the 40th stage reward. She's essentially a mini Collingwood / Nelson with 356mm guns in all forward firing arrangements. Her armor isn't the best, but with the Royal Navy DD smokescreens, it helps hide her in a pinch. Now, the Defense is a solid ship that costs twice the amount of other tier 10 ships. And if you aren't getting Kitakami, then I double check the armory for any other ships that interest you before you purchase the Defense. Now, the Kitakami is the 80th stage reward, which costs up to 192,000 Research Bureau points, 136,000 steel, or 1.52 million coal to get all the way down to the 80th stage. All the way down, I mean, it goes all the way down as the total cost. So it's one of those in total it is. So it either costs 192,000 Research Bureau, 136,000 steel, or 1.52 million coal. Now, she is obviously overpriced, so only get her if you want bragging rights to have as a port queen, or to just maim and shit on everyone with how many torpedoes you have. And if you want to go one step further, Kitakami has an exclusive camo that can be obtained at the 100th and final stage, and we're giving it stated this camo will be an exclusive to this event, and you can't obtain it if you wait, no matter what resource you spend to get a Kami. So we're giving you salutes to your accomplishments and rewards you with the ultimate desired ship. So you can't obtain it for the wait 2 years for her. But yeah. The camo will be the official. This will be only for this event. I'm not the biggest fan of the camo. It's like, if you're only going to spend that much on the Kitakami, why would you want to get the camo? But I know people are going to do it anyway, so we'll see how that goes. But Anyway, if you guys want bragging rights and you get 2 years head start on this ship over everybody else, you can go and get her yourself. But thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you all for being here. If you guys have any questions or concerns, let me know in the comments down below. But this is Overlord Bo. And again, this ship is pretty much Wargaming salute to your accomplishments and awards you with the ultimate desired ship. But yeah, talk to y'all later. Deuces.